Tired of everyone telling you to find your passion, but no one telling you how? Welcome to the Kereen Connection, and I'm your host, Kereen, an attorney with a passion for empowering others to use their many talents and skills towards a path of self-discovery and alignment. Join me as I share my personal stories, professional insights, and practical tips, and how you can connect the dots between what you're great at and turning your passions into purpose. Let's connect. Push it to the left, I can't go no more. Make it like no, I'm coming back home. I'm driving all my you. I'ma be the greatest, write my name in the stone. Write my name in the stone. Yeah, I'm coming back home. Yeah, I'm coming back home. Write my name in the stone. Cause I'm coming back home. Cause I'm coming back home. Hi guys, thank you so much and welcome back to the Kereen Connection. I just want to thank everyone who tuned in and subscribed, followed, and liked my first episode that dropped on my birthday, May 1st. Thank you so very, very much. I had an amazing day, by the way, and that was mainly in part because of a lot of the feedback that I got from you guys. It made my day, and I just want to let you guys know that I'm super, super appreciative, and thank you for joining me back today. Guys, today I wanted to talk about showing up as you. Now, that is a topic for our third podcast. And I thought it was fitting because I'm showing up here today as Kereen, right? This is, my birthday. I just celebrated my birthday and I have a different look. You'll come to know that Kereen shows up in very different ways and all of them are fun and okay. And that's what I want to invite you guys to do during this podcast, is just to be comfortable with yourself enough to show up as you in all of the spaces that you show up in. And one of the things that I want to, the first episode was talking about finding the drive. The second episode was talking about making that connection, right? And making that profound impact that someone is going to remember you by, and how making those connections can propel you closer to your purpose. But in order to make a connection with someone, you have to show up as authentically you. And that's what the message is for this episode of the podcast, is finding ways. It really shouldn't be finding ways. You should feel comfortable within yourself to appear in all spaces as yourself. And it isn't until, later on in life, I realized that doesn't necessarily come as easy to everyone, right? Especially in this day and age of social media, where everyone puts on a face, where the facade is real, that everybody try to portray how happy they are in their life and how things are going well. Meanwhile, we know things are not going well as well as you make them seem anyway, right? And that's sort of like the world that we live in. And also, because everything is just sort of out there in public, you also want to leave a good impression, and you don't want people to think negatively of you, and that's totally understandable. But in you trying to conform to what other people want you to be, or what you think, or what you want other people to think about you, just be careful not to change yourself too much, right? You still want to portray an authentic you. And what does that mean? That means how you show up in all spaces. Now, one of the things that I pride myself on as an individual is that feeling I get when I see someone from my past, right? Someone who you haven't seen for a very long time. And, you reconnect with them and, they remember you from who you are. Like, obviously people grow and everyone changes and no one expects you to remain the same, right? You have to grow and your personality develops and you may become a totally new person. And that's okay, right? But when you meet someone who knew you way back then, and, you can still interact with that person in the same way, or the vibe is not off, right? Just because you're further down on your timeline. the essence of who you are should still be there, right? The essence of who they remembered should still be there. It shouldn't necessarily be they're meeting a completely new person for the first time. Certainly, certain aspects of you are going to change, right? But as far as who you are as a person, your personality, your quirkiness, your humor, your sarcastic nature, your happy-go-lucky self, the way how you laugh and smile, the way how you talk, the way how you emphasize, the way how you walk, the way how of your being, there should still be some essence of you there that that person that know you back then can recognize that, right? And that's something that is important to me, because, you know, first of all, it's too tiring showing up as 10 different personalities every time you're in a different setting, right? And, I guess for me, I'm always thinking about, you think about yourself as an individual, your personality as it's your brand, right? It's the thing that makes you different and set you apart from everyone else. So when I walk into a room, I'm bringing my brand with me. And who is the brand of Kereen? Like, who am I, right? And for me, this has always been an interesting question because I hate nothing more than when someone try to size me up. Don't size me up because you don't know who I am, right? One day I will be doing a legal training, and the next day I will be, especially on a Saturday night, I might be post up in a dark corner on a wall grinding it out to some dance hall song because you don't know who I am, right? And so I hope you guys get to know all of me on this podcast, but you show up in different ways throughout your life in different spaces, right? But the core of who you are should remain the same. And so, people when people see me coming, automatically, when they hear, and this is why I don't even necessarily lead with the lawyer thing. Because you see me looking like this, and the average person doesn't necessarily believe that I'm a lawyer. And that's fine. And I don't go around trying to correct people. In fact, I don't even let people know what I do because it sort of puts me in a position of having to try to correct your misconceptions as to who I am. And that's not really for me to figure out. Like, I know who I am. And so whatever you're trying to, deflect on me, it's not necessarily my responsibility to correct. So I don't necessarily go into spaces like that. But when I think back about the various spaces that I find myself in, whether it's, relationship or professional or otherwise, I really do try to arrive in those spaces as authentic as I possibly can, right? And what does it mean to be authentic? It just means to be able to be comfortable in your own skin. Don't do anything that's going to make you feel cringy or feel like you have to do above and beyond. Now obviously, some settings are going to require a little bit more of you. If you're going into a social setting where people are networking, obviously it's not the setting for you to be an introvert, right? The whole point of you being there is to meet people. The whole point of you being there is to let people know who you are and to connect with people. And you have to, in order to connect with people, you have to give some sense of vulnerability as to who you are and let people know, why do they need to call me back the next day? Why do you think that we're going to be good business partners together? Should I think that you're a good person at heart that we won't end up in, in contract dispute later on down the line? It's all based on these connections, right? And then when you're making these connections, people have to trust who you are, right? You can't show up in all of these different spaces as a completely different person because, it creates distrust amongst the people who feel as though they're getting a grasp as to your personality or to who you are. And I guess people do need to size you up to an extent, right? They need to compartmentalize where do you fit in their lives. And that's completely fair. And so if you're trying to figure out, it's not really for you to figure out where you fit in someone else's life, but in order to align your vision with that person's vision, right? And whatever way in which that shows up. If your passion is driving you closer towards being a podcaster, right? And just for example, and you're entering into those spaces, what are you portraying in those spaces that's going to allow people to want to collaborate with you? And they don't. People can spot fakeness like a mile away. I don't know why people think that they're such great actresses and actors. Like, you can pick up pretty quickly when someone is faking it, and it may not be the first interaction, the second or third, but eventually people will catch on, because when you're pretending to be something that you're not, first of all, it's not something that you're going to be able to sustain. So people are going to know pretty quickly that, okay, maybe that's just who she was on that day, right? And I think it's important for us to have some level of, I don't want to say consistency, because I don't think, when I think about my personality, I don't think I don't know if there's anything consistent about my personality. You kind of want to be an individual and show up however you're feeling on that day, but to an extent, you still have to be genuine to who you are. So in my first episode, I talked about the varied experiences I had from junior high school, college, and law school. And then, of course, in my professional career, obviously, throughout my entire journey, I've met quite a few people, right, at different walks of life. But I can tell you that if you call Tracy Ann right now, who I met in junior high school and was one of my ride or die that helped me get through those times, she's going to tell you that I'm the same Kereen that she met back in junior high school, right? Similarly, in high school, my best friend from high school is still my best friend, one of my best friends today. Similarly, she's going to tell you I'm the same person that she met in high school. College, law school is the same. Because one of the things that I realized that very early on that sets you apart from people, it is your personality, right? And when you go around trying to be like everyone else, how are people supposed to know that special thing that's about you, right? And how do you, the whole idea while you're living on this planet is to be able to, one, get to know who you are as a person, make great connections with people, and ultimately find your purpose, right, for being here. So that when it's your time to expire, you can say, I've done it all and lived with no regrets, and you can feel good, in the legacy that you've left behind. At least that's what I want for myself, right? And I want that for you guys too, as my viewers, to be able to live a life without regrets. And we have so many regrets already, right? In the state where you are right now, there's so many regrets that you have already, but we don't have to continue to build regrets. So we want to be brave in order to continue to break through those fears in order to get through to the other side. And in order to do that, you kind of have to be vulnerable, right? In order to show people who you are, you have to be vulnerable to an extent. Vulnerable to laugh, vulnerable to cry, vulnerable to be serious when there's time to be serious, vulnerable enough to know what your boundaries are and to let people know what your boundaries are so that they're not, your boundaries are not violated. All of that is about you showing up as authentic as you are. And because people don't know who you are on the inside, it is your job to show them. It is your job to tell them who you are. And so in doing that, why show up fake? Why show up as something or someone that is going to be hard for you to carry through for the rest of your life? Why show up, allowing someone to know a version of you that doesn't necessarily exist, right? One of the ways in which I think that, my uniqueness has helped me throughout my journey, one, it allows people to trust me as a person. Right? They can trust in the reliability of who they know know who I am to be. And because of that reliability, people feel comfortable and secure in calling in time of need, in remaining in contact, in checking in to make sure that I'm okay, and vice versa. those things are what build relationships, right? When you know who you are and you can have a friend who can tell you who you are too, because they've been in your life long enough. And you know, people never know, you yourself never know exactly everything about you. Getting to know you is a continual process, and so forth for the people that are closest to you. But they should be able to tell, you know, the essence of who you are. And I remember, you know, one of the things where this sort of kind of really hit for me was law school. During junior high school, so young, you know, you really don't know who you are. You're trying to figure out who you are. You're trying to, you know, back in those days, your job was really about fitting in, right? In junior high school, you don't want to be the outlier. You know, and similar in high school, you kind of want to kind of ride the herd, like the safety's in the herd, right? You don't want to be the one that's going to be teased. And so you build up all these anxiety in you from a childhood of wanting to conform, from wanting to acclimate, from wanting to leave good impressions, for, you know, not wanting to get in trouble, right? All of these things kind of build this persona within you that's wanting to protect self. So it is sort of like a defense mechanism, but also you don't want to stand out to be teased, right? You don't want to be, you don't want you don't want all that attention on you, not at that early age, right? And then you get to like high school where you're sort of, you know, in that sort of breakaway moment of your life where you're like, okay, there's some things I'm good at, and I'm recognizing that I'm good at these things. I'm more good at these things than other people are. So, you know, that gives you a bit of self-confidence, whether that's being, you know, winning first place, or knowing that, you know, I'm a good 100-meter runner or 200-meter runner, or, oh man, I didn't realize that I'm so flexible. So I'm going to, you know, I'm really good at gymnastics, or, ooh, the chess club, you know, ooh, I'm really, you know, you kind of figure out that, you know, you have certain talents that don't necessarily come so innate to everyone else. Because I think before that, you kind of feel like everybody's like the same, right? And then when you get to like high school, you kind of like realize, oh, I might be a little special. You know, somebody's seeing something in me that they haven't really seen in anybody else. So that's setting me apart. And then you realize too, the setting apart sort of gives you that sense of individuality, and it gives you that sense of specialness, right? And I think in high school, that's when you kind of find the magic that like, ooh, you know, being special is kind of like a good thing, right? It gives you recognition. You know, to go off to college, being special gives you scholarships. You know, so you're kind of realizing at that juncture in your life that, you know, some element of uniqueness and setting yourself apart from the pack is what's going to create value for you, right? And so when you get into that space where, you know, you're leaving high school and you have some sense of individuality and some confidence building, then you can go into college now and you're like, okay, now I can create, and now I can explore, and now actually you can make decisions on my own. What are those decisions going to be, right? Am I going to be a decision to be this type of person or that type of person? And that's when you sort of develop, you know, well, not so much, right? Because I think your brain is still, the top of your brain is still developing until 25. But to the extent that you're able to have some level of autonomy at that stage in your life, you exercise them and you're trying to like get your footing. And I guess that sense of individuality between the confidence building and, you know, the creative space that you now have in college, you know, you're sort of fine tuning who you are as a person. And so when you get to like what your ultimate career is, now you're not in a learning space anymore where you can pick up this and pick up that. You're always in the learning space technically, but you're in the real world now, right? You're in the real world now where you're earning a paycheck. You have a boss and supervisors and managers. You have coworkers, colleagues that you have to depend on, colleagues that now have to depend on you. And, you know, you have promotions and you have raises, and you're at the point in your life where you have to set yourself apart from everyone else, and your career depends on it, right? You know, what you want your boss to see something in you than the person that's sitting next to you. So what are you going to do in order to do that? Now, you can always do things like stay late and work hard and go in early and, do those type of things, right? Those sort of things will set you apart as an employee. And if that's a part of your personality that allows you to be that disciplined, great. For me, however, I knew right away that what was going to set me apart was my personality. And it's what set you apart too, because no one's personality is the same, right? And it's just like the easiest starting point for me, it's what comes natural. It's whatever God has deemed, fit to bless me with without me having to work for it. Those are the things that I think about, So when you're in those professional spaces and you're at a space where you now need to set yourself apart, you start remembering those little things like, oh, well, in high school, I was this, I got an A in this class, and that didn't come so easy for that person. Now they're looking to me for help. And of course, in the professional space, that tends to happen too. Like when you set yourself apart from each other, from your colleagues, then now people start turning to you to look for the skills that you're good at. Like, what are the things that you're doing that set you apart from everyone else? And that's where niches are created, right? That's where you realize that your bread and butter is not in the herd mentality anymore. It's really about how do you set yourself apart from everyone else. So when you really think about developing the skill of just arriving at your own authentic self, you want to think about those things, right? When you're really thinking about, arriving truly, connecting your passions to purpose and getting to the place where you can connect those dots successfully, it's only gonna come from an authentic space, right? It's only gonna come from a place where you feel the most comfortable. It's only gonna come from a place where it requires less work and effort on your part on an innate level, right? The skill you may have to work on to develop, right? Nobody, some people are just born gifted and, in certain areas. And, as soon as I don't know. I always think about this sometimes, right? How do you, when this whole idea of a prodigy, right? How do you know someone is a prodigy until one, they pick up the thing that they're good at. One, you have to get that thing in their hands. And then two, does it happen automatically that as soon as they string the first chord, it's gold? Or it's something that they genuinely had to work on to develop that skill to become a prodigy, right? And I want to believe it's a second thing. I think because it's an innate skill, those intuitions are going to kick in, those gut feelings are going to kick in for you to play a certain type of chord. It's going to sound different to you, but those things are not going to come from when you're just stringing the first chord on the guitar. So I guess that answers that question. And that's how my mind works. In thinking about, the things that you're really great at and trying to connect those things to your purpose, right? Which is what this whole life's journey is about. You want to make sure that those things that comes very easy to you shine through, right? And I think sometimes, we tend to want to protect the things that you think you're good at. And guys, let me tell you something. I have so many stories of me wanting to protect the thing that I think I'm good at, that I didn't want to show anyone because I didn't want to be critiqued about it, or for someone to tell me I'm not as good as I thought I was going to be, and so you never really develop those skills. Those are the things that haunt you for the rest of your life, right? So if there's anything you take from me for this podcast today, develop the skill. Just develop the skill, right? But in circling back to showing up as your authentic self, I understand it takes some level of vulnerability to do that, right? In showing up as who you are, show up as all versions of you. I hate when people try to pigeonhole me into one thing. And I think that's why my passion has led me to you guys, because I get to showcase to you, not in a claustrophobic way, every aspect of who Kereen is, okay? I am the intellectual, the professional, I'm the attorney. I could be in a courtroom. I could be, I'm at the beach, playing with you are so many different things. And I think it's important for you not to have people define who you are for you, and to Be free to showcase all the different parts of you, right? I am fun. I'm an intellectual rather. I could be ratchet. I could be there's a little toxic, right? Everybody have a little toxic in them. Um, there's a whole lot of nice, and you're a mixture of a lots of collage of different things, and I think that's what makes your personality special. I said I was going to look this up before I started this podcast, but I neglected to. But you guys can look this up too. Think about what it took for you to arrive on this planet, right? All the different things that had to come together in perfect harmony for you to get here, right? So just as being, that's just being. Like, you were selected to be on this planet over all the other people who didn't make it in this space and time, right? Think about the fact that your fingerprint doesn't match anyone else in this world. I mean, just think about how amazing that is, right? On its own. So you are already uniquely made by version of an impression that's put on you. Like, you're stamped with that number that only matches you. Twins, quadruplets, whatever, just you have that unique mark, right? Why wouldn't that be the same about your personality? What develops your personality, right? It's all the unique set of experiences that only you have experienced throughout your life that built the character that you built, that built the presence that you built, that built the way how you speak, the way how you show up in this world, the way how you deal with trauma, the way how you overcome, the way how you build friendships, the way how you interact with people. It's all based on your very specific experiences. And not that two people can experience the same things, but the way in which you experience it will never be like anyone else. The way in which you overcome it and the things that it took for you to overcome it will never match someone else's experience. And then what do you do with it after you've overcome? The decisions that you've made, the intentional steps that you decide to take after that, whether good or bad, that also shapes who you are, your personality. The choices that you make, it shapes your personality. All of those things continue to add to this already unique identifier as a fingerprint that you already have, right? And you're building that throughout your lifetime. Throughout your lifetime, you're adding another number to that already unique identifier. And when you show up in spaces, whatever, say a networking event, and you're tasked now with meeting new people, and you want to show up as your authentic self, take with you everything that you've been through. Take with you all the adversities that you've had. Take with you all the toxic responses that you've exhibited. Take with you all the kindness that you've displayed. Take with you all of the pain that you've felt throughout your life. When you interact with that next person, with the understanding that they had similar experiences as you, maybe not the same, right? But similar experiences that they too had to overcome. Just that they too are they're a walking unique identifier, right? That God saw fit to materialize on this planet, and the universe has now brought them to you to meet them. Meet them and learn what makes them so unique, right? They're unique for a very specific reason. I try to find what that uniqueness is about that person. What is their God-given talent that they were here on this planet to display? And maybe they don't know, right? And sometimes people can pick up on those things before you yourself can know what those things are, right? People tell you all the time, oh my God, you're so funny. I'm like, I don't think I'm that funny. And people think you're hilarious. Like, people see that that's one of your talents and how it comes effortless to you. People see how, you are a nurturer and how that comes effortless for you. And, and how people gravitate to you because that is your gift to this world to nurture. think about all of these things as a gift, guys. Think about all of them as something that makes you unique. And think about the responsibility that you have to let people know what those talents are. People are here on this planet to connect and to find ways in togetherness to use each other for the benefits and good of mankind, right? And what's the benefit and what's the good of mankind? It doesn't necessarily have to be, solve world hunger, which I know we have already. We just haven't been doing it. We definitely had let me not go down that road about how we can solve world hunger by just one person. But we're all here on this planet to sort of connect with each other and showcase, what it is that you're good at in order to help someone else. Like I said, connecting that passion to purpose. But you also have a responsibility to tell people who you are. People are not going to know who you are just by looking at you. People are not going to know who you are just by the way how you dress and know who you are by the name brands you wear or the people who you try to associate yourself with. People are going to figure you out, whether good or bad or indifferent, right? And so why frustrate the process of why you're here? Why frustrate the process by showcasing something that is, one, not authentic to you and doesn't give the person what they need in order for them to latch on, to make the connection, to allow both of you to figure out the purpose of that relationship, right? And I think that's actually another point. Like every relationship that you build, that you start, it has a purpose. Everybody that you have connected in your life has a purpose for being there, right? And I know you've already sort of experienced this. We all have our different friend groups or our work groups, and you sort of compartmentalize people in the space in which you need them, right? You need your work friend, you need your work, wife or your work husband to give you that source of support and that escape when you're at work to kind of help you giggle your way through, 5 p.m. You have your partner that you need for a certain purpose that gives you the sense of emotional connection and love that you require. You have your kids that get, you have people are in your life that serve very specific purposes. Now, you can use them for your own purpose, right? Say, oh, this person is warm and very nurturing, and I like talking to this person because whenever I talk to them, they make me feel a certain type of way. And that doesn't necessarily have to be an intentional act by the other person. It just be something that you pull from this person's essence, and that's okay too. But if that person wasn't being authentically who they are, you wouldn't be able to reap the benefits of that, right? And so that's essentially what you need to understand is that if you don't show up as authentically you're literally depriving the person who's interacting with you for getting to the purpose of that interaction, or getting to the purpose of that connection, or getting to the purpose of what this relationship is supposed to bring, getting to the purpose of how this relationship is supposed to carry me closer towards my path. You kind of miss out on those experiences by not, one, being vulnerable and being your authentic self. So I just kind of want to leave you guys with that thought, just think about how much it took to get here. And now that you're here, how unique you are, how uniquely you are here, and then what unique skills I have that I can impart on the people that choose to connect with me, right? Because they need something from me. That's why they're connecting with me. So I want to be able to give them what it is they need, in whatever capacity it is that they need it in, right? And sometimes that could just be being in your presence. You underestimate just how your presence alone can have an impact on someone. When people talk about energy being transferred, it's a real thing. Just your energy being around someone can be helpful. Sometimes you don't even have to open your mouth. So even if in those times where if you're an introvert and you're like, okay, I don't necessarily want to do the most today, and that's okay, but vibrate high. because someone will pick up on that vibration, and the person who needs that vibration will find you, right? So you can use your purpose in so many different ways, and it doesn't always have to be loud. Not everybody's looking for loudness. Sometimes, people find you in the subtleness of who you are as well. So just be authentically you. Show up in these spaces in whatever feels most comfortable to you, whatever feels more natural to you. But just make sure that when you're leaving these spaces, you feel good within yourself that someone there know who you are, know something intimate about who you are, knows what, if not the talents that you have or some of the talents that you have, just the essence of your being. Leave that impression with that person so they're like, oh yeah, I remember Kereen, she was this, right? She was that. Leave some sort of impression. I mean, I would argue a positive one, right? I would say leave something that, leaves a good impression on someone. And if you can use that opportunity to showcase a talent of yours, do it. And I'm not saying, break out in song and dance if that's your talent, right? You find the right environment and the right space to do that. But do it, right? Find the time to do it, because trust me, your tribe is going to find you. Your tribe is going to find you, no matter how weird you are, how quirky you are, how fun you are, how sarcastic you are, how dry your humor is. Your tribe is going to find you. And I always find that when I show up as my authentic self, and, in whatever spaces that may be, whether it be in a friend space, professional space, I find that, it always comes off so much more genuine and honest, that those relationships just always end up being long-lasting relationships anyway. All of my relationships are long-lasting. I don't cut ties with people unless ties need to be cut. I am a Taurus after all. I'm not going to just let you continue to trample over me, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt, But yeah, when all of my friends, I can tell you safely that all of my friends can congregate together. My high school friends, my college friends, my middle school friends, my career friends, all of those people can appear in the same room and be like, yep, that's Kereen. And that, I pride myself on that. And I think oftentimes people, not a lot of people are in a space where they can say that, or even have the courage to do that, to show up as just who you are in every space that they appear in, right? Because we're so adapt to acclimating. We're so used to acclimating to different space. Now you're in a professional setting, so you gotta appear a little bit more buttoned up, right? And you do. Like you can't appear, you can't go to the board meeting the same as when you're arriving at the party, right? But your personality should still shine through, right? The people, I guarantee you, the people who are at all the attorneys that I know that are in those boardrooms, they know that Kereen is Jamaican and that dance hall is my heart. And if something plays too loud, I might not be able to control myself no matter where I'm sitting. So yeah, I'm going to be authentically Kereen in whatever space I show up in. And if it could be church, it doesn't matter where. And I really do pride myself on that. And, I know a lot of people try to keep the friends separately, but think about that. Why? Why do we need to separate our friends? The common thread of my friends is me. And if the common thread of my friends is me, then there should still also be some commonality amongst my friends. I'm not saying they all are, some of my friends are OCD and some of them are button up and some of them are more ratchet than the other. But at the end of the day, I can guarantee you there's a common thread in terms of all their personalities outside of me being their common thread. And they can all comfortably be in a room. Now, I'm not saying they have to like each other or like their personality, but they won't be like, oh my God, why am I here? They'll know that there's some commonality between all of my friends, right? And it could just be them just being a good person. They can show up however they want, but at the core of them, you're got to be a good person because, So I think if that's a commonality between all of my friends, I'm okay with that, right? And there's no reason why I would need to separate my friends if they're all good people. If I have a birthday party and I want to invite one of my colleagues to come to my birthday party, they're gonna have fun with my ratchet friends, right? Because my ratchet friend is my level of ratchetness that my coworkers should be able to handle, right? Because I'm not showing up too different than who I am outside of that room, and so, in getting to your passions, just remember not to forget self. And I think sometimes people, a lot of people, you'll hear, even when, people who have obtained huge success, right? In a space, artists do it all the time, right? You see it with artists. They come out with their song and then they blow up over the song and then they got signed to a network and now they're sort of like, they have to become someone else in order to perpetuate this dream. And then, what was otherwise their passion and what was fun to them is no longer fun because they're not being authentically them. It's being orchestrated by someone else's vision for their life. And you often see people just get up and just, quit. And you say, why would they just quit? They were successful, they were doing great, but they don't feel true to who they are, right? And so if you can be firm on creating those boundaries of not allowing people to change who you are, and being able to, showcase who you are innately and genuinely in every space you show up with, you're winning. You're winning because no one is going to be able to replicate what you can do, right? You can have 10,000 podcasters, but nobody's going to be the Kereen on the Kereen Connection. And that's what's going to make me special based on all of my varied experiences, based on everything that I've gone through in my life. That's what makes the Kereen Connection special. And I hope that you guys see that, right? I'm not just one thing. I'm not just an attorney. I'm not just a mom. I'm not just a sister. I'm not anything that you guys define me as. I am Kereen and authentically Kereen. And I hope that through this podcast, you can get to know my personality a little bit different, as much as my hairstyles will probably change on this podcast, and my outfit. That's how I want you guys to see me, as someone who is showing up as whatever feels good to Kereen that day. And that's how I show up, right? And surprisingly, it has been consistently who I've always been. And my friends have consistently known this about me and still continue to love me dearly to this day, right? And I think that will be the same for you. The people who you connect with when you are vulnerable with them and you showcase that level of vulnerability and allow them to showcase their vulnerability to show you who's a person that's been standing in front of you this whole time. Show me who that person is. It's only going to make the connection stronger. It's only going to make the bond stronger. It's only going to allow you guys to grow. And then you're going to figure out, wow, let me use this person's essence, this person's talent to help me connect to my passions and my purpose, right? So that's what I'm going to leave you with, guys, today. The message, of course, is being authentically you. Come as you are, and don't be afraid to be the person that is uniquely placed on this earth to show your many different talents and to ultimately, at the end of your journey, to connect your passions with your purpose. Thank you so very much. And please be sure to follow, and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you next time on the Kereen Connection. Thank you so very much. And I'll see you then. Let's connect. Thank you guys for connecting with me today. Don't forget to follow, and subscribe to my channel, The Kereen Connection. To connect with me, you can email me at thekereenconnection@gmail.com. And don't forget that sometimes your passion whispers before it roars. And if you're listening closely, the next episode might be where it gets louder. Let's connect. Push it to the